Never.
Does this work?
Always work.
I'm just going to read one poem tonight. It just happens to be very long. Light erupts from form, the quotable devices into waves. Who is you coming here to see it? Because who would bother to take what you give? Who would bother to give what you take? The stolen engine of sound, the continually unbottled insight that is now, that are eyes in an eternal anthem, eyes in the field of now. Just to see it as it is in you, this great divorce of white and blue. Seek anywhere and you find it in Satori. When the next word comes out, you can eat it and you can buy your action. Sometimes the meaning meets you there on a moving curve, where to flowers is an urban grove. You start with a sentence, something that encompasses, something that contains, or talking about the simplest thing like the wind, and then you move on to a greater idea, a leaf, the snow, the rain, there's a melting, there is a leaking, there is an ice patch, there is black ice. And then you allow it to fall into the meaningless meaning how cold is the top of the day, how coarse is this language like. We were sitting the other day together at the foundry like always, but we were sitting together like always. There was a line here forcibly removed by a backspace and forgotten, and then there was another line here forcibly removed by a backspace and forgotten, and then there was another line below that that was forcibly removed by a backspace and forgotten. And then the next place I went would be interior, something like, my goodness, the shadows know, I never thought about that before. There's a possibility of light, and then the kitchen, it's so beautiful, the icicles, the rain as they fall on the glass, as if a repetition or a pause, and then you would say something to the effect of, and then you would maybe write something to the effect of, and then you would maybe write something to the effect of, and then you would write something else that has an effect of, and then the next thing would be something about the rain, and the trees, and the boughs, and the leaning, and the type of things that occur horizontally and vertically. And then the next would consist partially of filling the situational edit. This was another situational edit. Filling the falling back on the thoughts that happened the day before, or wondering about pieces of the next thought. And the next thought would be the next thought, and that would become now tertiary. That would become cocoon, that would become a growing thought, that would become isomorphic, that becomes split down the center, and there's a tree that's growing from that. As you reply in your mind, move forward. As you reply with images in your own mind, continue with me and move forward. This is a new logarithm, this is a neo-rhythm, this is in 9, a rhizome, in 17 lines in each of 9, 17 which is actually 8, and 8 which is completion, but which commences now. Before cognomens claimed the truth, we sat under the tree, we found what we see in it now as word carved deep into its skin, and or symbology resembling sands. We were on no real quest, we just were headed toward the spring. What we happened upon was the tree and the roots from where it flowed. We were all about a silent week. What we got was language. Forests of unburnt proxy, likely fires to glow, kindling still and spineless kitchen. Within, warmth, potential texts of warmth, ancient theories of time, asleep but now engendered. There was one, yet now there are many. Words swept in curves. The sirens, they sang intrinsic. We soaked ourselves in a stream while some of us felt the shift, naked before Pan. Empty as pallets, syllables began a sighing. We began to think we could see something. We were sent from silence into unforgetting. With elephant minds, suddenly we were all avoiding the system. We all had bad credit. We all lived through earthquakes. Even New York City. We left our taproots behind when the shaman began to chant Gate, Gate, Peragate, Perasam Gate, Bodhisvaha. The liquid oracle is untraceable. We sense the field burning, the mystic winds of evocation, singed by an alternate future. We created a boat between them with myth-making in our hands, without a minute reminder of the land. What remained was our skin. Mines no longer made use of shells. Diamonds no longer held value or any proof of the clarity. Houses built on foreign allegories, coins in a heavy purse. When the sun becomes digestible, green becomes our meal. Jungles are strangely inhabited. New flowers are consumed. Each breath becomes a brand. Each breath becomes a new species. The rivers become the airports when Icarus flies up from the sea. Unmelted, the wings become authority. Trumpeters signaling arrivals. Not a singular moment unrecorded. Roads begin to buckle. We should be sleeping close to prostrate, accurately honoring the logos, waiting for the sun to awake us, awakening in the process of choice. Silver and invisible. When our gills start reforming, air will thicken to flow right behind our ears. Meanwhile, we will be unworried. We will be undirectioned. We will be unearthed, and we will be becoming. Now swimming through the firmament, time present in a gradual state of stillness, as a dying as an eclipse, every celestial statue working in backwards language, resounding the thoughts folded upon images, hands to fins, like Gutenberg never was, these teeth untyped, these tropes untrenched, untiming the chain, unmasoning the brickwork. We will be holding hands but never touching skin, subsumed by a school of starlings that will let us hold their thoughts. Pre-verse is the latter, existing as untimid elements, awakened by movement throughout. Blazing hyphens appear as snowfall. Cosmos converts chaos into an obvious binary pair. Matter was never in order, rapture and its reversal at once. When held in the mind and in the eye, it's the same feeling. The synesthesia will take it over. Calling colors, maps, and the making in one, movement, sense of pictures of unknown latitudes. We knew it was on its way, ever touching strings of the lyre. Let the prescription be on all accounts liquid, an unfathomable motion. We will call it again anonymous. We have all been split. We've been let out of the bag, unrecognizable to those existing in other possible futures. The sense organs will be covering us. There was nothing we couldn't note, over and over. Representations of substance, under and under. Displays of the shifting, palpable and included. And linguistic, moving as the water, but with the tenacity of fire. Away from the hand of gravity, the world in a constant folding, all short of a goodbye, in new forms of delivery. Forgetting to turn on the closing sign, not thinking about the sound that comes next, but just seeing it hovering before our eyes as we see it. We are standing in the portal to the inside of the river, to the tablio that's removed. The song is silent creature. As the wind blows in, all colors, all faithful visions, evolutions unremembered, the design in which our eyes and ears one organ. In other unknown functions, do what non-logics tell them. Soon, they say, we intake them. We are done counting words, done slicing particles, looking for smaller matters. It's time to be up, it's time to be off again. It's time to be on, it's time to be on again. Into the very direction, into the presence of, where threads have always been weaving, the larger fable illuminated before we go back into the center, or under, or beyond, fact just a thing like fiction, and adhesive, an imagined stroke of imagery inside and outside the fold. One can never leave the source. It's always moving the forward, echoing through every curve. All around the choral, a chorus, around matters that move too quick to see, a breath that takes in decades of composite, the oddities of an infinite substance, threading simple and unbroken, a continued helix of mitosis, in order to let us consume it. From agape, not obligation. Some more corrupted space, some more space corrupted space, some more corrupted space, space, some more corrupted space, some more corrupted space, more corrupted space. They've corrupted more space, they've corrupted more corrupted space, more corrupted space, more corrupted. I still consider myself likable. As you reply in your mind, move forward. As you reply in your mind, you are here and in any order. As you reply in your mind, move forward. Here you are in any order in any, and here are you. Fantastic lambent city lights, full-on riots of insight, forms of an internal city, qualities of the parameters, the body tracing out the ephemeral flesh, the pivots of the earthly vaults, flexible houses falling back into shape. Those are our bodies, the flexible houses falling back into shape. Advocates of symmetry suggested a prologue of a tongue resonant but still. Here, the lyrical one promised the providence, but to figure out what temples are illusory. To figure out which temples are illusory. and what motions inscribe the quickening arrives somewhere out of account, of chronos, of historia, of descriptor, of narrative, of record, of stories told at the well. And so to consume the mountains, to talk in musics, to walk around inside think, to tear the page on the line and let go. To write that is, we know, to write that is to be located. To write is to be located elsewhere. We move forward through the pantomime into the all-imitator of all phases, all rivers, all sides, all words, all works, wants, all sequential events through our day, mistraced and traced, a reason for the inverse of the universe, her eyes in a non-pattern of verticals, of invisible organs playing an evocation through a shifting temple, all points uprooted and proven, uprooted, ways into new waves, missions of noting metaphor for the benefits of math and after, a promising table holding an infinite number of glasses, half infinity, half full, half infinity, half empty, a sewing shadow with us, a sphere where every sound is safe, your smallest scientific matter when it decides to be aloof. That's when your smallest scientific matter decides to be aloof, where you're someplace in profile leading to sweeping contour, body is in the shore encompassing the lake, where one of us has been before. I think in processes, I think when two words collide as if the threat to the future is true, everyone knows it's a theorem. What goes on my right can also fit on my left, like a hand holding a branch, as does the leaf. To get at something, to get at the color, done with prefacing, I'm done with conjectures of matter. If it was complete, it would punctuate your let go. To reveal these things in the vehicles of flight, of thought, as you've been meaning to use them, to move from high places to higher, to reveal a change, a substantial gate, sitting upright on some shore, hiding, just past a concession of limits of your geography and your language. The new type is to a new form, it's to an open world. As you in your mind move forward, you have questions for a city, and by naming these questions, only the constraint follows. Here we find fragments of the undercity dismantled, journal realized, unmaintained and fixed in a disarray of blueprints and billboard allegory. All narrative was a piece, malfunctioning lines that once brought messages now lie in fractured circles of power, living as islands beneath buildings, would-be works of undecided earth. There is a flood of selves searching old addresses, reflexive and unaltruist, the way that energy can work, subterranean escapes of separation, man from the world, woman from the world from the inside, world from the inside, discontinued dreams of the farmer and the hunter who had the high structures of mind, transient moving through the continuing undelivered scraps of telegraphs, mirrors of progression not received or returned to the source, around the formative experience, those things of mind, pieces of the former heads, pieces of history we want to forget, low in technology, low in economy, low in experience from the soil still with the hands for the using. We were once risen neo, we are risen neo, but uncompleted of what is, from the times that we lived so distant back, interpreted, we left these spaces to listen sideways from their hands that touch the wind, that has fallen now into the abstract mentioning, this abstract language in the vague always, once was established everywhere. Once every undoubted street was above, they were celebrated differently, ringing where once met us, shaking off our mistakes, unstraightening the words, forming thoughts into golden curves. My last name is. I hear the equal dirty kings, the shot glasses of blues, the would-be chasing night, paragraph manifestos, through the drunken hue of asphalt, steel mill and shipyard grays, old thought paragraph, no proper determined rights, just animal directive, a punctuation, old thought paragraph, upward mobile, its self-addressing pronouns and sunrises, the possessive questions. This narrative is a piece, this narrative is a book. As you reply in your mind, move forward. How to explain these things in the adjectival inks that flow backwards in a feast of wares? Do I put it here? Does it go down here? Do I write it here? Do I put it there? Does it go on paper? Do I type it on the computer? Do I type it on a typewriter? Do I type it on my paper? Do I write it on handwriting? Do I write it with a crayon? Why do we rest when the city doesn't? The city endures much less than the broken soul neon search for the eternal awake. Look, every tonal cement glows between the quiet, metaphoric, philosophical beat painted on the barrio black pavements are the vocabularies of city gods. Not stepping into the sound between unanswered cries past their own ideal, large pronouns about nature. But remember that these are held together, mistook for reason. They're arts that were found in a trash heap in our city that's a trash heap in decline. These prime pigments through the vehicles of insight, their colors of colors, by the loosest and ideal of fibers, tell that the night ends on the verb to be, there is no coming back. The way in which two or more concepts, ideas, people are connected, or the state of being connected. The study will assess the relationship between unemployment and political attitudes to the terminal, off into the present tense. There is no sleeping, the informal, the overly, the hasty, in acting or in drawing a conclusion. We are here on exposed rooftops asking large and unfathomable questions of a city. Small summers barely curb a serenade. This is not you plus. This is not you minus. I knew it had to be something. The rubble dancing, the cars, the water stands, the cops about the corners, the children in the papers drifting in the dirt, the albino pigeons in the always, what clock, what tents, women walking off into private destinations, the distant memory of barking, what cigarette, what phone call. In the liquid soundtrack, gyrating night tablio, what morning, what death, dirty car window translation of the quotients, what leaving, what God. All so much defining for the sake of itself, a set of rules and losing face, what coming over, what awakening, themselves now in the backdrop, what leaves infinite ways to look at. The cosmos is, what notice, what sense, the Om as even anti-epic. What is coming, what is in the way that we knew, what if we knew what we were saying? What twilight? What passing at the eternal song has slept in bigger jail cells? What waiting? What today? What mark to forgive the pyramids of polluted light not far from music? The shape findings, the sequences from now on a reach for fabricated currencies, drastic dictionaries of depending, not like the epilogues, but the epilogues. Spending your principles, return is not to turn. Forgetting and forging of monomatic, banished cock ideas, gun-loaded in the dawn. What kidneys you're working on killing, what path, what ending. As you reply your mind, you move forward. Multiple beginnings to time, now known, are reaching face. They are made for nothing, not stepping into sound. In reference they would state, in some sort of resonant, a repetition, a perfect merge. This is not a picture, but this is something different. It's the bottom half of the beginning as the same. It's an inane hyperlayer, finally plying actuality. The techniques that have died as the top resistant is another story. Disposing of these metaphors, misspelling necessary dashes, these ideas. What hell, what room, what mind, what opposite, what separation. What guests, what arriving of translucent, what mutation, what lotus blooming blank, what directions of angular, what bliss, what coming, what holding, what lions, what retention, with a new note on how to make withdrawal, what blank deriving, what faces, what looking at this lifetime, what showing, what euphonia, what cage formation of love, what smoking offering of words, what reminder for blessing, what inconclusive face of a God, what a word. What that may be forgotten and thus always be new, where we seek no separation as you reply in your mind, move forward, and get closer to the beginning which much does this phenomenon ruin. They live where hunger, no more for geography. Why we pedal for the daily bread amongst the bakers. The time we let go of our propagation. Why play on our timpani the rattle of an unnamable war? What collapse, what willing, what rock falls, what rock breaks? Why walk on water for finally understanding your own physics? Are not focusing on the thought as it happens and the tree as a palpitating body, as it begets, as we're between, as we're another filter for another distance from another place. A white flag hanging, no longer hanging on an arch. The being on the marble, the fascinated recording. Why are we so fascinated with recording and the visuality as it happens? As our minds move forward, are we reply? Why let all these things, these cups, these crevices be empty, only when they can be filled full of the direction of the altruist entropy understood by our ecology? What direction? What an object? The paths that are gray, they're slick and clean with the reins. What created? What numbers? What structure? They used to be black. They used to be dirt. They used to be paved, prayers and grasses in the middle, made to sit on you, soft ground you, to sleep you, an old tree that draws on, too tall for you, to us all the you. What fissure, what retreat, what respite, what hum, what perfect, what location. Something breaks a little you, while passing the paths no longer narrow you. Laments, you, cold, you, leave. Cue rain, cue sleet, cue hail, cue death in Calcutta. Cue the steps to count out, cue a reality. Cue the chaos, cue all paths, cue the passers moving by, cue people talking in the bar, cue delusion, cue motion, cue movement, cue walking, cue the war, cue the motionless thought of offense, cue the place, cue a voice, cue the echo again, cue the echo again, cue the constant for this impossible silence you, an image you, in this frame of you, the mind you, the thing wrong you, with the mind you, dissolved by you, as you reply, in you a mind, in you move forward. Is right you, is rain you, it's a cue, you are a cue. See you see more rain, this time it sounds you, it falls at you, right you, and sleeps like you, and nowhere like you. Countable, love is understandable, not earned sometimes, but understandable. From a distance you, forming faces overhead, everything visible can be heard when the wind and the footsteps are in a void. Water taking over each bird as they're covering their wings from the wet, cold eyes, the nameless feelings, the incubus of an endless night. I, the uncompassionate I seek ovier chorus. I from a lighter chest. I, then the look. I, again, O night. I into your untrusting arms awake. I into each toxin. I aloud, equal in conceit and pleasure. I, each a trick disposed of. I, no more than I. The next I. Am eyes open with dissent. I breathe it in thick. I shackles around the continuation. I there is not a language. I spoken still. I should stop. A light. I in its flickering prime. Mere thoughts. I of rebellion. I a white light, white noise. I in a non-suburban drastic. I not to be a consumer. I must not be the city. I blind. I closed in your ravenous sheets. I burning with a stranger plan. I while your electric spontaneous glow. I being cleaned by the Hispanic men in gray jumpsuits on Wednesday, naked under the pinks, the different face of the city, of your storefronts, something made of substance. The houseless mystics are dreaming lucid. In their cutout counter, no new culture but ways. It is all to you, O American night, that I burn in the steel drums, each of your forgiving arts, even these lines of rich. The same woods keep hands of the endless love, the spiraling spin of vertical language, the sirens beating cryptic in the dank darkness, a dankness, today to be filled with light blinding, which can be seen, O deepest echoing, the deepest echoing of eyes, as you reply, let your mind move forward. As you reply in your mind, move forward. Unattached, a piercing aside, a piercing we remember of a side, formulas cast into holons, in all these eyes, into view, verbs of perception, semantic fields of poppies, aside from some lofty cantations, cold winds, the climatologies, the crack in the incantations, the barometric shifts, the Atlantis manifest as a mysterious polis, but as least approached a variable syncretic. The faith could be a louver for the ventilation of us all, for the ventilation of a populace, A place to reproach these pains is to dissolve thine eyes as fractured light. Light, what is, word, world, the constant approaching. If only the alignments were slower, maybe we could understand them. Maybe we could all read them. If it was too undiscovered a beauty that we think we're approaching a singularity, that we often think we know, as graphic, as sent, as one more unattached, as read from the back up. As you reply in your mind, you move forward. We kiss the oblivious, translucent, diaphanous Kansas, a lower rung, a lower edge, whose bodies are one is becoming together. Beatitudes in a field of multiplied cities. Both benefit to share more shapes. To know what apples are is to have faith in a thin mouth. In these eyes of height where God is not planted, God remains. All the non-surfaces shifting, it is a sacred thing to be a flower, intent on a field of selves, blossoms, arrivals, inexactitudes of distance. Everything in this picture is slanting, a wall, an overhill of steeples, proverbs behind, between expected and actual, walking parallel these roads are often, drops, platitudes, the unhallucinated word, the smell of the never being, the golden drying, the now, the sun falls up, horizons, frescoes never daying, everything being as it is, everything having to die again some distance of its birth. This narrative, especially this hitchhike, this parallel life is for everybody. Sober, as in a saying of Grammatica, determining content, using the space provided, filling it with vagaries, once designated, for where God is, not planted, we remain.
All right.